I'm Carmine Gallo, very excited today to be speaking to Sophia Popov, who is joining me just 5 days after winning an historic victory at the Women's British Open. Sophia, hello. So nice of you to join me. It's great to meet you.
Thanks for having me on.
Are you still in Europe?
I am still in Europe. I'm in Germany right now, visiting a couple of days.
That must be amazing. First women's German major winner because you have dual citizenship, US and Germany. How is Germany treating you?
They're treating me pretty well. They're inviting me to a bunch of shows right now, which is awesome. You know, those are sports shows that I grew up watching. I'm a big soccer fan, and usually it's only soccer players that get invited. So it's very refreshing for them to invite me, and just a lot of media attention, which I expected, but I didn't think I expected this much. So it's been a little bit of a crazy 48 hours.
It's very nice, I would think, to be giving this kind of joy to a country that's struggling, as we all are in COVID. That must be
Uh,
cool.
yeah, I think absolutely. That was I think one of the things that almost every interview was about was, we're in these tough times right now and COVID and everyone's struggling. And honestly, women's golf has been struggling a lot because we can't have any tournaments and all that. So I think it was very nice for German media, but I think international media to be able to write about something good that's happening right now and not just why things are being canceled again and why we can't do things, but to actually have a nice story coming out of a tournament. And they talked a lot about that, and it's just been really. I think it's been great for women's golf in Germany specifically because I think that it hasn't been on everyone's radar for a while now, so that's been nice.
And it's a great story here in the States when you get back to Arizona. You began the week ranked 304th in women's golf. You had lost your LPGA card last year. You were playing on what's called a Cactus Tour or a regional tour. After your victory, the Golf Channel said you shocked the world with an epic win, that you orchestrated one of the biggest breakthroughs in history. I'm curious, when you were tapping in your final putt on the 18th hole, did you have a sense that you would shock the world?
I think a little bit just because I knew that this was going to be very much talked about due to my low ranking. But at the same time, for me personally, it wasn't that way. I feel personally that I have been very close to being able to compete with the world's best players every week. But it just, I've had health struggles over the years, and I've had just barely missing out on my LPGA card that two or three times that just really put a damper on everything. And so I think personally I knew what I was capable of. So I think that it wasn't a shock or a surprise for me. Yes, it was unexpected, and of course at the beginning of the week I would have never thought this would happen, but I knew that golf ability wise I was able to. So I knew it would be talked about as a shocker, but I think personally, when I was making that putt, from my personal perspective, it wasn't that shocking. It was more of a, just I think something that I expected a while ago, and that just took a long time to happen.
Absolutely. I contacted you, Sophia. Thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time out there, because I want to talk about two things. I'd like to talk about story, the story itself, and why it captured the public's imagination, but also the sort of the mindset of a champion, how to mentally overcome setbacks. Uh, Quickly, let's talk about the story. I see the world through the lens of story. I write books on storytelling and business and leadership. And I think people were captivated by this story. If you'll allow me, let me look at the story arc of your career, but very briefly. You were a college All American at USC. Then in 2015, you get hit with this mystery illness that takes 3 years to diagnose, and it was Lyme disease. 6 months ago, you're seriously considering quitting the sport. Then you qualify for the British Open, and you not only win, you win as the lowest ranked player ever to win a women's major, the first German woman to win a major. Sophia, that may not be the way you would have written the story, but can you appreciate it's a good story?
Absolutely. I think I never, to me, it's funny because for yourself, it's a personal story. It's the struggles that you go through and that you think only you yourself know what's happening. Only you know, you think no one else is even paying attention to you, which is true. No one, when you're not playing well, people don't pay attention to you. So really the only one who knows what you're going through is maybe your family and yourself and maybe your closest friends. And so I think that, when I graduated college and we won nationals, I won 5 individual events. So I was coming out of there on a high, and I felt like it was just going to continue. And so I got my LPGA card and my European Tour card, and it was just, and I thought, oh, this is awesome. It's going up and up, and I can't see my slump yet, I guess. And it hit really hard in 2015 with the health issues I went through, and I was never able to perform at the level that I knew I could and I wanted to. And being the kind of person that I am, I think a lot about things, and I'm very analytical about my own, life and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense and what's lucrative and what should I be doing. And I think that last year, it was really hard for me because I'm getting up there in age as far as 27. I know that doesn't sound old to a lot of people, but from an athlete's perspective, it's kind of getting older. Yep. And you have other things to worry about. So you're thinking, how long can I do this to myself? Because also mentally, it's so crushing when you just miss out on your LPGA card every other year. You played a couple seasons and you lose it again, and then you get back and then you lose it again. And it's this up and down in your head and very, very stressful. And so you're thinking, like, is it all worth it? Is this all, what's the end game to what I'm doing right now? And I think last year, finally, for the first time, after seriously debating whether to quit, I said, okay, I'm going to continue. But if I do continue, and I gave myself a little bit of an ultimatum until I turned 30, basically. And I said, if you're going to do this, it has to be 150%, 200%. You need to be, don't half do things. It's going to be all in or not. You focus on everything you have to focus on, or you stop, because you cannot, it's very hard to live with the disappointments all the time, and you have to be okay with them. But just, don't kind of go into it, but at the same time, look at maybe doing your master's and all that stuff that I was looking into. And I think obviously now going back, I'm so happy I made that decision. And I love this sport so much. So the ambition was there. It was just, can I finally reward myself? And I honestly, obviously didn't think it was going to come this fast, but it was fast, but it's been a long time coming.
And you made that decision to go in 110%. Did you give yourself a deadline?
30.
Okay, but you gave yourself sort of a mental deadline.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was, I turned 27 in October, so I'm turning 28 this October. And 30 for me is basically, you have about another 3 years. And I said the 3 years is my ultimatum that I'm giving myself. And I think, that might have also taken a little pressure off, because I was like, 3 years is a lot, can happen in the 3 years. So that might have been a good thing, something I should have maybe done a little bit earlier.
Let's pursue this whole idea of the mentality that it takes to win. And I think this transcends golf, although for golfers watching, it's incredibly valuable. But it transcends golf, because you almost quit. We've all been there. The salesperson who doesn't want to make another call, the entrepreneur who just cannot make another pitch because they've done it 400 times. Where did you find that determination to keep going?
I think it was, it doesn't just come overnight. It was a lot of conversations that I had with my family and my boyfriend, and we talked about, seriously drawing, I think just painting a clear picture of what's exactly going on and what my options are. And I think my after talking about it for a long time, I think my boyfriend said to me, he said, why do you do what you're doing right now? Why do you keep putting yourself in this position? Like, if it's so mentally draining. And I said, because I love the sport so much. I can't picture myself not playing golf. I've been playing since I'm 4 years old. I celebrate all these successes in my amateur career, just to then go for 5 or 6 years without being able to have the success I wanted in professional golf. I don't feel satisfied at all. And I just I wanted to prove it to myself so badly. And I think, to me, quitting was like losing, and I hate losing. It's like any sport I play, any match I have, whether it's pickleball or soccer or whatever I'm doing, I hate losing. And I think that's the mentality that I have, is the determination not to lose, and I guess the ambition and the love for the sport.
I think you nailed it. It's that passion. You cannot, in order to succeed at anything, you cannot go in just halfway or even 90%. It has to be a calling. Like, this is the only thing I see myself doing right now. Maybe in the future, you're going to have those plan Bs, but for now, this is my calling. If you don't have that, regardless of what you do, I don't think you'll ever be as successful as you could be. I think you can. I think you might be able to make money in a lot of different fields, even if you don't have a lot of passion for it. But among the people who I interview, whether they're athletes or CEOs or famous entrepreneurs, it always starts with a passion.
100%. I mean, you can't. I feel like if you don't love something, then you're never going to pursue it as strongly as you do when you do love it. And I think in golf, it's very hard. I mean, how many times do you go out on a golf course and you go, God, I hate this sport. This is the worst. I'm never going to play again. I'm throwing my clubs out. And then the next morning you wake up and you go, all right, I'm going to call my buddies. We're going to go out and play. I mean, in golf, it's so extreme like that. And then the next day you go out and you shoot 68, or I don't know, my dad, he shoots 80, and that's for him awesome. Like, and then he says, I'm going tomorrow. The next day he shoots 87 or 90, and he goes, I hate the sport. I don't get it. What went wrong? And I think in a professional sense, it's the same for us. It's like, you don't make 4 cuts in a row, but you're so close. You're really not, ability wise, you're not far away. But you have that 1 week, like I had maybe last week, and it can change everything for you. So I think, just the love. If you don't have the love for the sport, you wouldn't come back every day. And so it's definitely impossible without that, I think.
That's why I love not only playing golf, but watching it and speaking to people like you and reading about it. I see golf as a metaphor for life in so many different ways. I want to talk a little bit more about this mindset. And this is where I think you can get introspective, and you're so eloquent and thoughtful, I think, as a player. So I'm going to ask you this. On Sunday, you had a 3-shot lead going into the final round of the British Open. You make a bogey on your first hole. The closest competitors, at least the next two right behind you, have won multiple times on the LPGA Tour. You have 0. You make a bogey, it sets you back a shot. And then you come back to birdie the next 2 holes. Take me into the mindset. Most recreational golfers, including myself, that's the point, the wheels come off, you completely unravel. What is your self-talk going into hole number 2?
So I think that after the first hole, I hit a tee shot that it went in the bunker, and at Royal Troon, you can't hit in the bunkers. You have to go out sideways. it was almost an automatic bogey, but it was kind of like when I was in the bunker, I said to my boyfriend Max, I said, okay, I'm just going to hit out sideways, give myself a short shot as my third one, and try to make par. I hit a good putt. I didn't make par though. It didn't go in, but it was a very good putt. It just barely lipped out. And I said, in that moment, it was interesting because I said, I know I'm nervous. I know I didn't want to start this way, but you gave yourself a really good chance of making par on number one, and your putt almost went in, and you're still there. Your golf game is just fine. You just picked the wrong club off the tee. It's all right. So then on the next hole, I think for me, it was really important to stay aggressive. I said to Max, I said, if I can go and if I can birdie one of the next 4 holes, we're good. And then I just kind of went out there and I put some aggressive swings on it. I think it was really important for me to just go after it. I picked one less club for that second shot into the green on 2 and just kind of try to hit it as hard as I could. And that was very, I think, it was kind of relieving because it was like it started where I wanted it to, it finished where I wanted to. And I knew at that moment, I said, okay, I've got all the tools that I need to win today. You can calm down. Like it's fine. It's all gonna work out the way it should work out. And it's weird because the nerves kind of went away between number 2 and number 3, just from those couple shots.
You mentioned something interesting. Your self-talk, because I'm listening to you carefully. You don't go into that negative mindset of, oh, well, I guess that's it. I had a good run. I'm an imposter. Everyone's going to see it. I don't belong here. You never see. That's the thing about golfers, especially at that elite level, and someone who accomplishes something historic like you do. It's really, really easy for all of us in any field to get into that cascade of negative self-talk, because I think naturally, and from the psychologists I speak to, both sports psychologists and non-sports psychologists, we are sort of wired for this self-talk, for this negative self-talk. It takes a little discipline and practice to stay positive when things are starting to unravel.
It is. I mean, people can't even imagine how much time we spend on mental coaching, on how many books I read, how many times someone has to say to me, that hasn't been my mindset always. I mean, the last couple years, I would get into that situation and I would do exactly what you said first. I would kind of come off to a bad start and then get down on myself and say, I knew it wasn't meant to be. I knew, and it's like 2 holes into the round. It's like 16 holes to go. And so I said to my boyfriend, he said to me, we're playing a game today. After, you do not comment on any of your shots. So you know how you hit a shot and you go, oh God, that's far right, or something like that. You comment on the shot. We've done that. We've played this game a lot of times. So he just looked at me, he said, we're playing the game. I said, yeah. So I basically, after a shot I hit, I can't comment on it, whether it's positive, negative, just nothing. So that when I do hit a bad shot, I don't acknowledge it as a bad shot. I don't go, oh my, like, did I have to hit it that far left? Or did I have to hit it that far right? All that stuff is it's just not good for you. And that's why that on that first hole, it was so important for me to pick out the positives on that hole. That shot into the green was a good shot. The putt was a good putt. It just didn't go in. It's fine. But not going into why I just started with a bogey, because a bogey can happen on 1, it can happen on 14, and I would rather it happen on 1 than on 14. So I said, that's fine. I have 17 holes. I just got the bogey, out of the way. I'm good. We can relax and we can start playing. That was kind of the mindset. And that was so different, I think, to how I used to go into an event being in contention. But I worked on that so hard this quarantine, especially mentally, having a good attitude and seeing, I remember I used to have days where I felt like I hit it into a divot like 3 or 4 times. And I'd be like, of course, this only happens to you. This only happens to you on the final day. And of course, everything's going badly again. That's how I would used to think inside. And that's just like, that's not going to get you anywhere, because then all your brain acknowledges is, yeah, so you're having a bad day. I'm going to make you have a bad day because you think it is that way. So it's going to be that way. So it's like a belief thing. Like, if you don't believe you can do it, if you don't see yourself doing it, if you don't see yourself holding the trophy at the end, it's not going to happen. Like, you need to be able to see those things happening.
I think that applies to everything in life. I coach a lot of CEOs and senior executives, especially on public speaking and communication. And so many people, even at a high level, will talk themselves into not performing their best even before the performance. And so that's why I do try to use golf as a metaphor, because most people, especially non-golfers, don't understand that it's 80% mental. And like you said, you have to spend a lot of time building up those mental muscles.
Absolutely. It's like, I talked to my brother about it, and I honestly, I can't believe I had this conversation with him the week before the British. And my brother is like, I'm very close to both my brothers, and one of them just started a company in LA, and they've been doing really well. And he said to me, Sophia, nothing will come, or nothing will happen if you don't believe in it. If you don't see yourself, he said, I know you had a lot of near losses, and I know it's been very tough on you, but you need to be like, you need to believe that you can do it, and you need to realize that these things only happened in order for you to now be able to win and to now be able to succeed. Like, you have to have a good mindset about it. He said, I can't run my business. I couldn't have started my business without being positive about it, without believing in what I'm doing. He said, I can't pitch this to any of my investors without, they have to believe me. So I have to believe myself. It's not going to come across the same way if I don't believe in myself. And he said, so it's the same way in golf. He said, if you don't see yourself holding the trophy at the end of the tournament, then you almost can't expect it to happen. So just, have that mindset and be more stubborn with yourself about it. And I love that. Honestly, I can't believe I had that conversation with him literally the week before the British, and then this happens.
Sophia, everything you were telling us is just so valuable, way beyond golf. So I hope a lot of people watch this. I've been listening to you carefully. I wasn't going to go into this, but something just came up that I think we have to at least address. You're not doing it yourself. You've mentioned your boyfriend, caddy, Max, 3 times. You mentioned your brother. And this is with great entrepreneurship, too. When I see companies being built from scratch, it takes a team, because one person has to lift the other person up when the inevitable setbacks occur.
100%. I mean, it's, if I hadn't had the conversations that I had with each of them, even the previous year and going into this year, it would have never, wouldn't be standing here. There's another person involved. There are a lot of people involved, but I have a best friend who plays on tour, and only 2 weeks before the British, I actually caddied for her for a week because I didn't have anything to do that week. And I was like, well, I can caddy for you. And she has been an incredible positive energy in my life. And we talked so much about our mindset. She said, Sophia, I want to go out today, and I want to be super positive all around, no matter what happens. And I want you to make sure it is that way. I want you to make sure that I don't go down any, negative spirals, no negative talk. And I said, okay. And so a lot of the stuff that I talked to her about, even the last 4 or 5 months, because we spent some time during quarantine together, has been so important in creating my mindset for the British. And I just talked to her right before I went on with you. And I said to her, I honestly, I don't think I would have been in this position right now, sitting here, if it wasn't for her. I mean, it wouldn't have been like this if it wasn't for my boyfriend, my brother, my parents, my coaches. This team consists of about 10, 15 people that I could have never done it without, because they have always believed in me way more than I did in myself. So, that's it doesn't, you have to have these people around you. Otherwise it's going to get really tough.
Isn't that amazing? I'd left a full-time job years ago, like 15 years ago. I left a full-time job as a vice president of a company, making a very high salary because I started write. I wanted to write books, and it was my wife Vanessa who said, "You're quitting today. Give your 2 weeks and come back and start writing." And this is when we had a new house, a mortgage, a baby on the way,
Yeah,
but she sometimes it takes other people to see something in you you don't see in yourself.
absolutely. And I think that they, I mean, it took a lot of times for them to say, you've got the skill set and we believe in you, in order for me to believe in it. And honestly, yeah, for sure. You have to have these people around, and yeah, they make you do things that you would never trust to do yourself. So it's pretty amazing.
Sophia, you are a joy to speak with, and because your story, you don't look, you don't need my advice, but because your story transcends golf, and you have this unique platform, a platform that you would not have been given, frankly, if you had been a modest winner on the LPGA tour, modest. I
Mhm.
don't think you would not have this unique platform because of this amazing story. I hope you use that platform to inspire girls in golf, girls in sports, and frankly beyond golf.
Yeah, but I mean, I have realized, started to realize that I'm in that spot, and that's what I'm hoping for. I mean, I just want. I'm a girl that loves sports, and I hate when people say to me I do anything like a girl. That's just kills me. But so I'm hoping through the story, and and how the last 3 to 4 weeks went for me, that and I can inspire other girls and boys. It's
Sure.
anyone to do what they believe they can do. And so it's, I really hope that it carries forward and changes some other people's lives. I'd hope for that.
Good luck to you. Thank you so much. I know you've got an exemption now for what, 4 years on the
I have
tour?
a five year major exemption, so we'll see how that goes.
Wow, that's okay. So when the tour brings you to Northern California, let me know. I'd love to see you. Love to see you play live.
Absolutely. Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you very much.